Oh, how I love a review. A review is a chance to look back and see what happened, to really look at it in a more conscious way and ask, what did I learn from that? How can I grow from that? What can I do better or more gently or more kindly because I experienced that? What do I want to do less of because it doesn't feel like my thing anymore? And what can I do more of because I really enjoy it? A review is an opportunity to celebrate all of it, this gift of life. And a review provides the possibility of moving forward with greater awareness, appreciation, intentionality, and hopefully joy. This winter has been a real winter, the kind I remember from when I was a kid. Cold and snow up to your waist. Well, when I was 4 feet tall anyway. A sledding and digging tunnels all day long sort of snow. This is my winter in review. It began with the concept of reviewing what I made this winter, which began as what did I make with my hands? What did I crochet or stitch or felt? But, of course, deeper questions appeared, bigger questions. Did I make the world a better place in any way? Did I make a difference? Did I make intentional choices to support myself well? And does it really matter what I made? Toward the beginning of the year, I wrote in my art journal, "Make, that is all." And what I meant was just make. It doesn't really matter what your excuses are about why you're not making stuff right now. Just make, because you feel better when you do. That is literally the only reason that you need. So yes, that is all. If I consider myself a maker and the idea of crafting my creative life appeals to me as it does, then it is about making. It is about what I'm making with my hands. It is about what I'm making with my days, with my life. I came into the new year with a desire to focus less on productivity and to make for the experience of it, the joy of it, the being in it. Making because I have to make, because making is self-care. So does it really matter what I made? The answer is yes, it matters, because it brought me and others joy. It brought healing. It helped me to be more me. So yes, it matters. Because if you are a maker, a creative, even if you don't realize it or think of it in that way, then you gotta make. You will feel better and much more you. At the start of the year, I made myself walk when I didn't feel like it, and do my meditation and my hooping, because I knew I had to put some huge intentionality back into the practices that I know I need. I knew eventually I'd get back to where I feel like my practices are taking care of me, but for now, I have to be the one that puts in those initial efforts. I know I don't feel the emotional or energetic benefits of walking until I've walked 2 miles, so I got to get to 2 miles when I'm walking. I've been here often enough to know I'll feel better, but first I have to do my part. So back into my life on a consistent daily basis, I made a commitment to my meditation, to walking, to hooping. My practices started to feel good. I started feeling stronger again. I got so that I looked forward to sitting and to not thinking for a while. And my practices became, once again, my way of life. I brought back my hugely important healing practices and made them into habits again. I made progress with healing my nervous system. I made better choices around honoring my boundaries. I made our home a lot cleaner and nicer to be in. I hope I made some people happier or made them smile or laugh or help them to have a better day. When a new year wraps around again, I love to start putting my planner pages together. So I made my coloring in monthly calendar pages for the third year in a row. Coloring has come back into my life. It's something that I loved to do as a child. Probably most of us did. It just feels so natural, and I'm sure my brain and nervous system appreciate the familiarity of it. It is such a calm and playful way to begin my day, sort of pondering the upcoming day, but also it just helps my mind to calm down and helps me to settle into the day ahead. When I'm getting my new planner pages together in my binder, I also always end up looking back with curiosity to see what I was up to the year before and how I was doing during different times. I like to see the patterns. I always hope to see something that shows improvement in how I'm feeling, and mostly improvement around my intentionality. I can't believe I wasn't crocheting last year at this time. I was starting to feel a desire for crochet, though. I had tried knitting and crochet a bunch of times before. I had made one Christmas 4 of these baskets. One for my sister, my mom, my niece, and myself. I'd made tons of tiny little attempts as a child and a late teen, since all the women in my family have been knitters, crocheters, and crafters of all things. But when I tried to get the hang of it as an adult, I never seemed to be able to do it. I suppose I was impatient. I always got kind of frustrated when I messed up or didn't know which hole I was supposed to put the hook into. And I didn't have a grandma or auntie nearby to save the day. And there wasn't YouTube. I'm not good at all at reading a pattern or understanding from reading about it. I find it painstaking. And this time, there are videos I can watch and slow-mo and watch again and again until I understand. I began to get excited, but I needed some yarn. As it happened, as my eagerness for crochet was growing, our local craft studies center was hosting a winter make-along, and the prize was a gift certificate for the wool yarn store nearby. So, of course, I entered. I made these 3 embroidery hoops. Self-care was clearly front and center for me at that time. I was in the thick of doing a lot of healing. It is quite possible that I'm the only one who entered the contest, but I did win. And alas, I had my yarn. Granny squares followed immediately in 2 colorways. I made one set into a cardigan, which was super uncomfortable, so I took most of it out and will probably make it into a vest. The other color, I'm not sure. Maybe a cardigan, maybe a blanket. We'll see. But the grannies, what is more soothing and satisfying? Someone recently asked me why everyone is so obsessed with granny squares these days. I kind of think we've always been obsessed with granny squares, but with good reason. They are simply delightful to create. They are rhythmic and repetitive and super satisfying to watch come together. What's not to love? I made a tree skirt with double crochet that came together really quickly and just in time for the tree to come into the house. I made these little perfectly imperfect round baskets where I just went round and round because I was too stubborn to do a fancy joining stitch. I made a giant sweater with no pattern, then unmade it into a zillion yarn balls, then remade it into a bunch of squares, which will hopefully become at some point again a sweater. I wanted to make a blanket that was soothing to crochet, just going back and forth without thinking about it. Just the gentle, rhythmic, repetitive type of thing that feels really good. I wanted it to be like a weighted blanket when it's folded. I wanted it to be narrow enough that it was easy to work with and long enough to cover my whole body when I'm lying down. So I just keep adding row after row after row. I have my pen and journal in my hands before my morning cup of tea. I've written like this for decades because if I don't write, I can't seem to process my experience. That's just how it is for me. I have always related to the Flannery O'Connor quote, I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say. I've found that having a review process is something that generates huge amounts of clarity in my life. It's something I include with nearly all the guided writing prompts I create. I do it with my own journaling, and really, it's in the review that I'm able to put the pieces together. My thing is, when we review, we reveal. We are just always changing, and reviewing is what helps us know where we are now, today, this moment. It reveals to us who we are, how we feel, and it informs how we want to approach things and go on from here. I made the Sneak Peeks writing program. I already offer a writing program with 21 full-length prompts, but I really wanted to create something for women who might be struggling to access journaling, or for women who have been writing for a while but want to find themselves writing something all new. And I just know that feeling supported in your journal writing allows you to sit back and follow along as the aha moments flow into your experience in a gentle, nourishing way. And this makes your writing powerful, transformative, and satisfying. I wasn't feeling super energetic or capable in the beginning of the year, but I found crochet to be accessible and not at all demanding. And I thought that perhaps if I was feeling this way, others might be as well. When I took crochet up, I had a longing for someone, auntie, grandma, friend, to be sitting there with me as we companionably stitched away on our own projects. I always have that longing. And so that's when the Slow Something Together video series was born. They say you make what you need, and in this case, that's definitely true. I'm craving gentle companionship, so I started making videos to provide gentle companionship. So I made a crafting video for the first time in a year and a half, and it became a series. And then I started making how-to craft with me videos again. And then, of course, once I started crafting and sharing again, I became more energized because I felt more like me. Making and sharing are who I am. And when you do more of what makes you you, you just feel better. I started this design 4 years ago. Literally 4 years ago at this time, it came to me as I walked down the street smiling, as I listened to the birds chatting about how happy they were that spring had finally arrived. It's one of those things. I can't believe it took me 4 years to make it. You'd think maybe I'd be bummed about that, but it's one of those things where I go, you know what? I'm glad I didn't make it then because it wouldn't have been this good. It was going to have yellow birds and blue writing, but 4 years later, I finished it and just thought it was the sweetest thing with the bluebirds and the green background. I just love the chartreuse of the new growth against the blue sky in the spring. I've been so happy to get back to my practices, all of them. They all make me feel more myself. Being in my art journal has been a relief, actually, and of course, it was super satisfying when the pattern for Keep Going appeared there. This is how it happens. It shows up in my journal, and then sometimes in my art journal, and then eventually it becomes something I might want to share. I've probably written Keep Going a million times in my journals. These are probably among the words I've written the most in my journals. But then here it is, and it surprised me and designed itself into a pattern in my art journal. So it's time for that now then. I'm just learning to follow inspiration around, trying to learn to not try to force things into existence. It is ever so much more fun and flowy to see it evolve in its own time. and what gets created is so much better. I went a little rainbow happy this month as one thing led to another, and I kept following inspiration around. I began slow stitching a satin stitch rainbow, which led to a pattern, which led to other hoops and videos, and it was really satisfying. I have loved seeing the pattern and hoops take shape. Lots of surprises as I experimented with the different ways I could put them together. Lovely to make it into a new pattern to share. It's time to start taking some photos of all these little rainbow hoops I've been making for the Etsy listing of the pattern. Usually my hoops live here in our hallway. It's my Thrive wall that I started in 2022. I started it when my word of the year was thrive. I thought there was no way I could have such a ginormous word of the year if I wasn't going to have all kinds of reminders to help me along the way. So I started embroidering the words that were coming to support me. And then I started patterning and sharing them. Thus, my Thrive Wall was born. Today I'm taking them down and laying them out together so that I can take pictures and show what they can look like together. It's really nice actually to take them down and look at them up close. They are so pretty in person. Doing a review like this does help me be like, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what nurtures and heals me now. That's why every time I unearth all my arts and crafts, I feel like I'm unearthing myself. And the idea here now is that all this slow somethinging is what is nurturing me now. By necessity, because it's who I am and who I've always been. That's why just picking up yarn and hook, nodding away, I feel better. I feel improvement. Just because I'm making, creating, doing something with my hands. I can't explain why that makes me feel better. It just does. I'm creating something that wouldn't otherwise exist. It's satisfying. The colors are satisfying. The textures, watching it form. And satisfaction is a very good thing. So yes, do more of what makes you feel satisfied. I do just feel better when I'm making something. I want to make more, but not for the productivity of it, for the satisfaction. I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity to look back on winter. I did end up going back through my journals as part of it, since somehow it all ends up being a bit of a blur. Reviewing slows it all down. It reminds me. It allows me to take something away from everything that has happened. It allows me to get something out of all those days that already happened. And it allows me to choose, because of the awareness that it creates, what I might want to bring forward into the new season. I'm going to keep making this sweet mandala hoop, and I'm going to keep adding rows to my moss stitch blanket, and I'm going to keep making because it just makes me feel better, because it just makes me feel more me.